Welcome back, Fragrance Fiend here today with one of the most iconic men's fragrances of all time. It is Davidoff Cool Water from 1988, the Swiss brand which really did change fragrance history. A classic for many, or a substitute for Green Irish Tweed for some. It's a bottle you'll probably find in most of your parents' bathrooms cabinets. You really have to give credit where it's due. It was practically the fierce of the late 80s and early 90s. It really is the one that was responsible for bringing the aquatic subcategory of aquatic aromatic fragrances to the forefront. All thanks to perfumer Pierre Baudin. Put it simply, it really captures that cleanliness and cleanness, which is obviously different to oceanic, which has more of a sea salty tonality. They're often quite light, airy, evocative of a tiny bit of a sea breeze, and they're typically dubbed the perfect everyday summer scent or gym scent. Meanwhile, the category of aromatic, as this is a bit of an aromatic aquatic fragrance, refers to a fragrance that typically consists of either spices or lavender, but more so in a fresh, clean context, even when it comes to some more woodier scents. So the terms are different, but they definitely go hand in hand and are brilliant when combined together. As pleasant as many would dub the fragrance, really the popularity does come from the price tag. When you buy a bottle of this, you're not really going to be breaking the bank. It is a very cheap fragrance. $30 for 75ml, $50 for 125ml, and $60 for 200ml. So to the note breakdown. In the top you have green notes, seawater, mint, coriander seeds, lavender, rosemary, and cologne, with a heart of neroli, jasmine, sandalwood, and geranium, lastly with a base of oak moss, cedar, musk, amber, and tobacco. So let's give it a spray. Poor atomizer, but what do you expect? Do I appreciate this fragrance? Yes. Do I like it? I guess. Would I say I love it? Not really. Ultimately, super safe, masculine, sophisticated, sporty fragrance. Really does cover all areas. This is such a generational thing. I mean, when Fierce came out, obviously a lot of the late teens or people in their early 20s were wearing it. Now it's considered a very old, mature fragrance. This is from what I've read by people online, by the way. And obviously, even though it's a bit of a timeless DNA, people still call it quite dated, as it is associated as a father or grandfather's fragrance. In the opening, out of all those notes, you really do get hit straight off the bat with that mint. It's fresh, invigorating, and goes hand in hand with that lavender, which really does overtake the fragrance quite a bit as well. It's that very Jean Paul-y type of lavender. The cologne accord obviously adds that element of freshness as well, but it gives it its synthetic texture, kind of separates it from, say, Green Irish Tweed. The coriander and rosemary add a very minimal element of spice, nothing too crazy, it's very safe. While you get those very light florals in the heart, not that they're detectable to the average nose, but really are what bring the fragrance together. Throughout the rest of the dry down, it kind of skips a few jumps and goes straight into that ambery, woody base. The tobacco I've never gotten before. Maybe back in the day a little more of it was used, but obviously the more tobacco you would put in there, it would definitely corrupt that opening quite a bit. So I totally understand why they put a very minimal amount of that in without trying to disturb the more cleaner elements as smelt in the opening. Even though it's not necessarily a fragrance I absolutely love, there is something so comforting about it as well, something almost quite innocent, which I assume to many well above my age would remind them of a simpler time when fragrances weren't as absurd or complex or overly sweet as they are now. Because when you really go to think about it, they didn't have these synthetic molecules to be able to create those more sweeter fragrances back in the day. Not to compare to Green Irish Tweed again, but obviously a very massive price difference. With Green Irish Tweed, you really do get that additional projection and longevity, which will last you most of your working day, 10 hours easy. Whereas this, remembering it is an eau de toilette, you're only going to get about 5 hours out of it, if that. Then again, personally, I have naturally a tiny bit of a high body temperature, so I do radiate scent a little more. Sometimes it evaporates a little faster, but I do get pretty good projection with what I do wear. And this is no exception. When I spray it, I can literally smell it on myself, blasting off my skin for the first 2 hours or so, until it really begins to die down. An absolute classic. I'm pretty sure if you work in an office, at least one person is probably wearing it. Without trying to categorize a specific type of person, imagine someone, say, in potentially their 40s, who takes care of themselves enough to bother wearing a fragrance, but not be too out there. And this was actually gifted to me by my auntie, and I may have re-gifted it to my dad. As you can maybe see, I've literally got about 1% of my bottle left, or my dad's bottle, I should say. But really, you can't hate it. It's a classic. It's done so much for the fragrance world. Without it, we would not have as many of the modern classics we have today. Without the importance of its history, it would be weird to see something like this come out in today's age. It was definitely one of those cases of right time, right place, right era, and all that marketing over the past 30 plus years has led for this to be a staple. If this came out today instead of 1988, would it be as successful? Would it make the same waves? Would it be in everyone's cabinets? A genius managed to come up with it at the exact right time, place, and created a legacy. So yes, it's a historical gem, a scent which is appreciated by many. I'd still pick my Green Irish Tweed over this any day of the week. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time.